What's up, y'all? What's poppin'? This is D about to react this video about Miss Mojo. This is the shocking true story behind The Devil Wears Prada. I didn't even know this was a true story. But honestly, I never seen this movie. I saw little snippets of it here and there, but I never watched it, so can't really say that I know the fake story, of Devil Wears Prada. But sure, we're about to see the shocking true story and why it's so shocking. I'm interested to know. Let's watch.
Well,
this might make me watch the movie.
Claim that this popular film is based on a true story. The real history behind it is not so simple. Hey everyone, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to Ms. Mojo. Today we're recounting the true story behind The Devil Wears Prada.
All right, everyone, gird your loins.
While we're going to do a deep dive into how much truth is behind the story we saw on the screen in The Devil Wears Prada, one thing we know for sure is that it was adapted from a novel by writer Lauren Weisberger. It was Weisberger's first novel, and the story was a simple one. A young girl without any interest in fashion finds herself being hired to work at a major fashion magazine.
Who are you?
My name is Andy Sachs. I recently graduated from Northwestern University.
And what are you doing here?
Her job is as an assistant to the magazine's editor-in-chief, who quickly begins to make her life a living hell.
I said to myself, go ahead. Take a chance. Hire the smart fat girl.
The book was released in 2003, but even before it had made its way onto bookstore shelves, there were discussions of film rights. In fact, movie execs were bidding on the project before Weisberger was even done writing it.
Miranda Priestley is a huge deal. I bet a million girls would kill for that job.
They only saw an outline and the first 100 pages of the novel, but it was enough to convince them that there was something special there. Carla Hacken, who at the time was the executive vice president of Fox 2000, says she was the first to read the story at Fox. She was immediately sold, saying, quote, "I thought Miranda Priestley was one of the greatest villains ever. I remember we aggressively went in and scooped it up."
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
I do like her a lot.
Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.
But what made the book even more enticing was one simple fact. There was evidence that the story wasn't a total work of fiction because Lauren Weisberger had actually worked at Vogue herself. Not only that, but she had worked as an assistant to the famously icy editor-in-chief Anna Wintour. It was a job she held for just under a year. With this titillating backstory, who could resist?
Please bore someone else with your questions.
The parallels from the story to real life are hard to ignore. Wintour is British, running an American magazine, and so was Miranda Priestley. The fictional magazine Runway is an obvious stand-in for Vogue. Lauren Weisberger left Vogue to work for another magazine, writing about travel.
I want to work for somewhere like New Yorker or Vanity Fair. I am a writer too.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Well, I should read your stuff. Why don't you send it over?
In the evenings, she signed up for a writing course and began documenting her experiences at Vogue since it was such a remarkable time in her life. Her intention had never been to write a novel, but once the idea took off, the rest was history. She said, quote, "When it was published, people kept saying, 'It's so brave of you to write this.' It wasn't bravery, it was stupidity and complete naivety. I didn't think anyone would read it, let alone have an opinion on it." No one was as surprised by the success of the book or the film as the book's author.
And before today, you had never heard of me.
No.
And you had no style or sense of fashion.
She said, quote, "I was just excited that someone wanted to publish the book and that I could tell my family that they could actually buy it in a store. But for it to sell and have it made into a film too was a complete whirlwind for which I wasn't prepared." When the novel was eventually released, at the beginning of 2003, it became an instant hit, spending 6 months on the New York Times bestseller list. While at first the screenwriters tried to do a direct and faithful adaptation of Weisberger's story, they eventually deviated more from the plot, especially the ending. The initial scripts were more satirical in nature, even taking inspiration from the 2001 comedy Zoolander, which lambastes the fashion industry in all its over-the-top glory.
Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really ridiculously good-looking?
For a long time, Weisberger was wary of sharing much about her time at Vogue, and was quiet about the parallels between real life and the story that made her famous. Her dialogue on the topic always seems cautious, though she will reveal small snippets of truth in interviews from time to time. She said to the Daily Mail, quote, "It wasn't a one-to-one portrayal of Wintour. But of course my time at Vogue informed the book. There's no denying that. In the same interview, she mentioned that Winter seemed particularly disdainful of her practical footwear, saying of her sturdy platform boots, quote, she would stare at them in disgust, and it was a stare that conveyed her displeasure pretty clearly. The movie tackles the unrealistic body standards that the fashion industry pushes head on, like in scenes where Andy is mocked for being a size 6 and celebrated when she gets down to a coveted 4.
So none of the girls here eat anything?
Not since 2 became the new 4 and 0 became the new 2.
Well, I'm a 6.
Which is the new 14?
Weisberger has said of her own experience at Vogue, quote, I knew I was tall and thin, but I was short and fat there. When the film was released, reactions in the fashion industry varied quite a bit, with some commending the movie for accurately depicting aspects of the sartorial world, and others saying it didn't actually reflect any reality.
Okay, can you please spell Gabbana?
Writing for the Los Angeles Times, Booth Moore called it a, quote, fine fashion fantasy with little to do with reality, adding that any insider would know that this was just the imagining of an outsider. But Liz Jones, who had worked as the editor of the British version of Marie Claire, saw much that was familiar in the movie. She called it, quote, a chilling reminder of the most surreal 3 years of her life,
there.
and added that she even sympathized with the villainous Miranda, seeing bits of herself in her.
Okay, she's tough, but if Miranda were a man, no one would notice anything about her except how great she is at her job.
Weisberger claims that she never heard anything from Anna Wintour or Condé Nast, the company that publishes Vogue, after her book was published.
I don't really care what anybody writes about me.
Despite the fact that the novel was being talked about everywhere, it was not discussed or mentioned in any Condé Nast publication at the time.
Obviously, you've played a lot of extraordinary women. What was the most challenging woman you ever played?
Oh, I should say,
No, we're not going there, Meryl.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
No.
In a move that raised eyebrows, however, Anna Wintour herself attended the New York premiere of the film in June of 2006. Not only that, but she wore Prada to the event. While one of her friends said that Wintour thought the movie would go straight to DVD, Wintour herself has always been polite when being asked about the movie. She said, quote, anything that makes fashion entertaining and glamorous and interesting is wonderful for our industry. So I was 100% behind it. The reality is, the story got Wintour's name in the headlines, which certainly could not be bad for business.
What's the least true rumor about you?
They're all true.
Interestingly, 3 years after the movie was released, Wintour was the star of her own film, one in which she had a little more creative control over her image.
I don't see any real evening on that rack. You're not doing it?
No, I am.
In pieces?
Yes.
Do we have
sketches?
The September issue was released in 2009 and gave fashion fiends a behind-the-scenes look at the inner workings of Vogue. It's a documentary that follows Wintour and the rest of the Vogue staff throughout the creation of their biggest issue of the year and portrays Wintour in a positive light.
Which exposed the exploitation of...
So does that give you a better perspective on the story? Did you read the book or...
I've always heard about The Devil Wears Prada. It's a very popular movie. I'm definitely familiar with it, you know, on a basic level, but never watched it in its entirety. Like I said, I saw clips of it, probably at somebody's house or something. I don't know. Maybe I was flicking through channels, not really sure, but no, this didn't make me want to watch it. Like, I'm not gonna watch it. Definitely not about to read the book. I don't care that much. I'm not, you know, into fashion like that, you know, clearly. So, you know, not that interested in it. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more shocking though. I wouldn't say this was like crazy shocking, but sure. Y'all let me know what y'all thought though. Let me know what other videos you want me to react to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!